My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our Duck Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Thank you once again to Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020. If you're looking for a high-quality premium food to put your four-legged hunting partner on, check them out, Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020. Also, thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your dog hunting and training needs, and a great company to work with. www.gundogsupply.com. Also, thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck, if you have not seen the new 5-star crash test rated large kennel, for those of you with bigger dogs, go check that out. Otherwise, intermediate is what I run most of the time. And just great kennels that are the safest out there. Go check them out, www.luckyduck.com. And last but not least, Sitka Gear. If you guys are looking for the best clothing to wear in the field, around the house, out training, www.sitkagear.com. Thank you to all of them to make this podcast possible. All right, so as promised, my follow-up to my North Dakota episode, which is the solo episode. And so first let me tell you why I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this because I have a process that I do with a lot of my young dogs, which I'm going through right now with Solo, that you could say is a little unconventional. It is something that is very difficult to do because you have to have a lot of discipline, and it is it's just not fun, to be quite frank, but it's extremely beneficial when you look at big picture. So I've done this with a number of my dogs. I'll tell you why I'm doing it with Solo. So I'll give you the sneak peek, and then I'm going to rewind, go from the beginning, tell you about Solo, and tell you about what we're doing and why I'm doing it. So what I'm doing and what I did in North Dakota. So North Dakota, he had his first time in the field. First time ever. He did not get to go get a retrieve. He sat there. He watched the show. He watched birds fall. He watched Clyde go pick those birds up. But he did not go get a retrieve. Okay, that's the end. Now let's go back to the beginning. So let's talk about Solo first. So Solo's story for me actually starts years ago when I first met Bud. So Bud, the first time I ever met Bud, I walked into, so I'm over in Scotland, I'm staying at a friend's house, walk into his backyard, and he's got his kennels there, and he had a couple dogs. I think he had maybe 3 or 4 dogs there. And the first dog that caught my eye was Bud. Just he has, if you follow us on social media, you've seen he just has this look about him. Like it's almost intoxicating, right? With his eyes and the way that he's built, and he is just a beautiful, beautiful dog. So he was the first dog that caught my eye. And then next to him was a dog named Tweed. So Tweed, so first off, I just love that name, Tweed. I think it's not only is it fitting, being that he's from Scotland, but I just think it's an awesome name. But I really liked Tweed. And so when I really got to fall in love with Tweed is later that day was the first time that I have ever trained with Tweed. Really liked him. Everything that I look for in a dog. Big motor, very under control, but on the edge. Like I love dogs that are on the edge because I can always rein them in, but you can't put it into them, right? Like they got to have it. So I love dogs like that. And I tried forever to purchase Tweed. forever. And I really wanted to have Tweed. And this is a kind of against my norm. My norm is bringing in young dogs so that I can train them, I can build them up the way that I want, and then I can watch how they develop. And Tweed at the time was probably, well, let's see, Bud is 3, so he probably would have been, Tweed probably would have been 5. And, it would have been different, right? So here's a fully trained dog coming in versus how I like to do it. So, but he caught me that way. I wasn't going to be able to buy Tweed. I mean, his owner loved him. He was gonna keep him, which is totally great. So, anyways, I'm able to get Bud in, and but I kept up with Tweed, because I have a relationship with my friend. Always liked hearing how he was doing in his competitions. Always loved hearing how he was doing training, and I just got to a point that I wanted a Tweed puppy. I don't want just any puppy, but if the right breeding came up, I was going to get a puppy from it. So, a good friend of mine, very good friend of mine from overseas, calls me, and he goes, "Josh, Tweed's going to be siring a litter that is from, my mom has the female. This is one you should get a puppy out of. If you want one, this is it." I was like, "Great, let's do it." So I'm going to get a puppy out of this litter. Well, I get a text message the night that the puppies were born, and she had one puppy. Just my luck, one puppy. So, of course, she, my friend's mom, who again was the owner of the female, is going to keep a puppy. The second puppy was going to go to Tweed's owner, and then I was first on the list for the next one. So of course I miss out. And but because I have such a good friendship with these guys, I remember from day one keeping up with Solo. So the reason he's named Solo was because he was the only puppy, so Solo. And I remember getting messages like, oh, he's got the whole milk bar to himself, and this big little puppy laying by mom. Watching him kind of grow up and develop, and I was getting photos and videos and stuff all the time. And so kind of fun. Just kind of fun to see that, fun to catch up. But I never thought that I would end up with him. So Solo's about a year and a half. So probably about a year ago, she calls me and she goes, "Josh, this dog is a lot. Like he might be more than I can handle." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, "Well, if you're at all thinking about getting rid of him, I 100% want it." And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, I just love him though. Like he goes everywhere with me, does everything with me. Like I love him. I love his personality, but just when I take him in the field, I think he's got a little more than what maybe I can do, I can handle." So I'm like, "Okay, well, think about it." So she calls me back a day later. She's like, "Josh, I just can't. I love this dog too much." Totally understand. Totally get it. So about another 4, 5, 6 months go by, somewhere in there, and I get another phone call, and she goes, "Josh, I've thought a lot about this. And in the meantime, keep in mind, I've been continue to get photos and videos of how great he's doing and how well he is, right? And of course he's young, but they're having fun with him." And she goes, "This is a tough thing for me to admit, but I think to get the most out of his potential, he should be with you." Now think about that. Think about if you had a dog and you are saying and trying to be honest with yourself of saying, I think that this dog, to get the most out of him, should be with my friend or someone else. I give her a lot. I already love her to death, but respect-wise was through the roof, right? Because that is a very, very difficult thing to admit to yourself And I don't even know if that's the truth, right? Like, she's a very talented, dog handler. I think she's a great person. And so I don't know if it was true or not, but she was really trying to look at it as what is best for him. Okay. So she said, I've just come to the understanding of I need to sell you Solo. I need him, to go with you because I think he has potential to be something special. Now, this is an individual that has spent a lot of time with me. I've stayed at their house. Her son has stayed at my house. We have done a lot of training and a lot of communication. So they know what I'm looking for. And you just don't get special dogs very often, right? So I'm like, well, if they think that he's potentially special, like, he's probably potentially special. So the only stipulation on the whole thing was I had to get him out of there as soon as possible, because she's like, if I keep sitting here looking at him, I'm going to change my mind and keep him. Yeah, she's like, I just got to rip the Band-Aid off. And so I hung up the phone, immediately called her son, and I'm like, I need you to go get Solo right now. Because at least if he's at your house and she's not sitting there looking at him, then she's hopefully not going to change her mind. And he was the whole time was like, Josh, this is the right thing. I've been telling my mom this for months, that he should be with you. This is the right thing. Okay. So normally when I bring a dog over, I don't know what they potentially have. And so when I get them here, my process is I get them here, like to get them at young dogs. I need anything really before a year old. Like to get them here, like to put them through my training process, again, so I can watch them develop. I know what their strengths and weaknesses are. I watch, the transformation myself. I can train them my way. And then, I have a very good understanding of who this dog is. That way, if they do become, and very few do, but if they do become a part of my breeding program, then I have a very good understanding of who to pair them with to produce what I believe are the best puppies I can. And so Solo was going to fit this, right? So he came in, I think he was, right around that 12-month mark. And I got him in, it was probably early summer is when I got him here. And when I got him here, I'm trying not to have the thought of this dog is going to be special because of what I've heard, right? Like, I have to take that off the table. Don't let emotions come into play here, and look at him and say, what do I think, right? So mentally I'm from scratch. But right away he seemed to be that potential caliber. How driven he is, how focused he is, how composed he is. He can shut off. Yes, he's still a puppy. He still has his puppy moments, things like that. But as I look at my special dogs, so I look at Clyde, I look at Brock, I look at Bud, I look at Strike, I look at Brack. Look at these special dogs. He's showing me a lot of traits that I really, really like. A lot of natural traits that I really, really like. Very natural in his mouth. Very natural, with his retrieve. Great marker, very composed. He's very driven, which I love. And he's done a great job. When I say composed, like he does a great job not breaking, but he's always on his toenails. What I mean by that is, like, he's always like that. He's that rubber band wanting to snap. Like, he's leaning forward. He's on his toenails. He's waiting for that cue to go. And he's gotten better at this, especially as we do more and more honoring work. He does, he's getting more and more, composed, more and more understanding, and he's doing great with it. But he's only had, call it, 6 months of formal work with me, and he's not through his training. He still has all of his handling to go. He has just started his pile work and his lining and his three-way casting and stuff like that. But he's introductory to it. So I find myself in a situation where I'm going into the first season. I have a dog that is not fully trained. I have a dog that I think could be very special, and I think I have something here, right? Now, brings me to this season. Brings me to this season because this is where most times the dog gets hunted. Dog gets hunted, bad habits come up, and now you fight those bad habits as you go into that next training season. What bad habits could I be talking about? Well, for my waterfowl dogs, breaking for one, which is my number one concern when it comes to training. Yes, I hate the whining and the vocalization, which I didn't think I was going to have with him, but this is a great aspect of this too, is just making him sit and watch. But there's so many bad habits that can come out of hunting season when the training isn't done yet. You could create hurdles for yourself that you didn't have previous. So when we went in the field with Solo, I took him on a hunt that I thought was going to be the least distracted hunt that I could have. I took him on an afternoon hunt, so we didn't have all the extra excitement of this early morning, which is, what's going on and where are we going, and it's dark, and there's so much more that could happen. Plus, then when birds potentially do start coming in, it's still dark, right? So then maybe those first shots go off and he doesn't see the birds and he's wondering what in the world is going on. I want to take all that extra excitement off the table. So we do an afternoon hunt. We were hunting I think we were in a wheat field, or maybe it was even a bean field. I can't remember now. It was a week ago, and of course I can't remember. But the cover was very minimal. Everything he was going to be able to see right in front of him. It was wide open. It was perfect. So I bring him out there. My intention is that Solo is going to sit and watch the show. He's going to watch everything that goes on, because everything he's going to see are the things that I cannot train for. I can't train for birds buzzing the decoys. I can't train for the calling. I can't train for, you can train for calling, right? But when you get 3-4 guys hammering, trying to turn birds and trying to do all this stuff, like that's difficult, right? Naturally, the energy level rises. I can't train for the excitement when you call the shot and everybody coming up and shooting. I can't train for, multiple birds falling out of the sky. I can't train for the enthusiasm that happens afterwards, especially in some of these big volleys from everyone in the blind. There's a lot that I can't train for. So the way that I look at this is in the field training. Okay, this is everything is happening, but I'm not shooting. I'm focused on him. And here's what I'm looking for in this. That you start to see what's all going on. You start to watch birds and start to understand the game as far as where birds are. They're coming from the sky. They're not coming from my hand or from a wing or anything like that. You're being able to watch everything that goes on. When birds start falling, you don't get to go. The reason you don't get to go is because, as a lot of young dogs do, they might be steady on that first or second volley because they've been trained to. Then all of a sudden they start going, when shots go off, I get to go get those birds, and then they break. And then you're fighting, trying to get them not to break. I don't want to fight with you not to break. You're going to sit here. And this is where the discipline comes in, because there were times that there were birds 15 yards in the wide open, wing up, right in front of his face, and he's staring there looking at it. You know how tempting that is? It is so tempting for me to go, just say his name. Just one time, just say his name. But for me to complete what I'm hoping for as my goal here, which is be calm, be steady, watch what's going on, honor Clyde doing his work. Just take the edge off. There's nothing more important in a waterfowl situation than a dog being steady. A dog that is not steady not only ruins hunts, but is put in dangerous situations, because you, as the dog handler, is probably paying attention to the dog. The dog goes by you guys, you go, shoot, my dog broke, you put your gun up. Well, your buddies that are next to you probably not. They're probably not even aware of it. And so they're going to continue to shoot, which oftentimes, especially if you're in layouts, which are on the ground, you're laying on the ground. Now that dog is at gun level when he's breaking out in front of those. It's dangerous. It is not worth it. So what I'm looking for here is I'm looking big picture, because I know that there are some people out there that are going, well, that's ridiculous. Like, you got to put feathers in the dog's mouth, and you got to get the dog retrieved. But what I'm looking for is different. What I'm looking for is that ultimate dog in the future. I'm not worried about right now. He's gonna get feathers in his mouth. He's gonna get retrieves. He's gonna get exposure. But right now, I have a dog that is very high drive. I have a dog that is on his toenails when we're training. I have a dog that wants to do this more than anything else. I have a dog that I think could be potentially special. When you add all those things all together, it's a recipe for disaster if it gets out of control. There are so many dogs that I see that are very, very talented dogs, but they're out of control. We talk about this all the time. A dog that is in control gets to go more places, gets to do more things. As it relates to a gun dog, gets invited to go more often if they're under control. He's not done with his training yet, which means my philosophy is he's not hunting yet. But I can put him in the field and let him start to dip his toes in the water and start to understand what this is about. That way, when I do hunt him next season, he's going to come in this going, okay, I've already seen all this. I know what this is. I sit here and I watch this stuff. Boom, boom, boom. He's going to sit there, he's going to be calm and steady. And then I'm going to say that name. That's going to be an extremely exciting time for me. He's going to go get that first retrieve, and I'm going to know we did all this work to get here. Now, I also understand I'm in a unique situation as well where I have 5 other dogs that I can be hunting, and I don't need to have the dog with me. I get it, guys. I get it. I get it that most people out there are not going to do this. I get that most people out there will probably make excuses for themselves and say, well, I need my dog to hunt because. I get it. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying you probably shouldn't if you want that ultimate, dog. I'm saying you shouldn't if you don't want to present hurdles for yourself that you're going to have to overcome later on. What other hurdles could I be talking about? Well, when you're, waterfowl hunting especially, a lot of, and we see this with young dogs all the time, a lot of your retrieves end up being in the decoys, which means you give them enough repetition doing that, they want to hunt in the decoys, not push through the decoys. You start letting them watch bird after bird after bird fall, then all of a sudden you go to work on blinds and pile work and start taking their eyes away from them. They want to see it. Then all of a sudden you take your dog and you want to go run a blind through the decoys and they get hung up. You start trying to cast them back and they keep sucking in. There's a lot of things that could come up. The breaking is the biggest one. And even if you just do this for a couple hunts, I think it's extremely beneficial to allow the dog to soak up everything that you can't train for. Use it as a live training session and make sure that your dog is going to be under control. There is nothing worse than bringing that dog in that first hunt, you shooting, so you're not watching the dog, then the dog breaks. And then you're sitting there frustrated of why the dog is not being steady. Don't let it happen in the first place. You won't have to fight it. Again, I get that this is somewhat abnormal, but I'll tell you what, I have had a number of dogs that fit this bill that I've done this with, and they have been very successful, and I believe a big part because of this. The other part of it is being vocal, right? So you've heard me talk about in the past that I think being vocal is a genetic trait. I think mouthy, whiny, vocal dogs produce mouthy, whiny, vocal dogs. But I also believe that you can take a naturally quiet dog and make them noisy. So let's use the example. Dog breaks on that first volley, okay, because ton of excitement, ton of stuff going on. He breaks. Now all of a sudden you're trying to hold him back. While you're trying to hold him back, he is getting more and more anxious and more jacked up. And all of a sudden you start to get, Now, do you potentially create a bad habit? I'll tell you what I watched with Solo. I watched him at the very beginning be extremely jacked up. His eyes were like grapefruits as he's sitting there going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, and birds are falling, and ducks, and he's like, oh. And he had to watch Clyde go and pick those up. So he's watching Clyde. He's looking at me like he's anxious. He is definitely on edge. And then each volley, he got less and less anxious. He got more and more calm. He was enjoying being there, but he wasn't thinking that everything out there is his. It was the best training session I could ask for. And he did a fantastic job. And so as we go back out, I plan on doing this again with him. Yes, it is not fun taking a hunt away from myself, right? It's really not for me. I mean, I don't need to kill birds to make this fun. I don't need to kill birds to be productive. I don't need to kill. That's in a sense, that's why we're there, but that's not why I'm there. Pulling the trigger for me is actually pretty anticlimactic. I love the calling. I love the setting the decoys. I love working the dogs, of course. Killing the birds is kind of a means to an end for me because I want to get those retrieves. But it's as I look at the dog side of it, losing that hunt is not a big deal, but it's about the best training session that you could ask for. It's a live training session, right? And you can't control, right? You can't control what the birds do. You can't control where marks fall. And so for him to just be able to take that hunt, soak it all in, watch it all happen. Again, I'm sitting here with what I think. I'm not going to deem him a special dog yet because, as I've talked about before, there's a difference between good and great. And then there's the jump from great to special. And few dogs make that jump. But it's also the situations. You think about how many dogs could have been special, but they didn't have, whether it was a situation, whether it was the right owner, whether it was the right handler, whether it was the right training. A lot of that holds dogs back that potentially could be special, but they hold those dogs back. I'm trying to give this dog every opportunity that I possibly can to allow him to prove to me that he's special. I'm not going to deem him that yet. I get to be pretty critical about this. But I think his trajectory is looking like he's trending that way. So I'm trying to be as productive with him and put him in as advantageous situations as I can. He's not ready to hunt yet, but I want him to experience this. And it could not have gone any better. I loved every second of it. Loved it. So that's kind of the quick version of the Solo story. Hope you guys enjoyed that, but I'll keep you posted on him. Yeah, I've kind of held most of my dogs that I do import. You really don't ever hear about and the reason why is that I don't like talking about these dogs, and then all of a sudden they're not around, right? So a lot of these dogs that I bring in, they don't make the cut for me. They're great once in a lifetime dogs for a lot of people, but I have to be extremely critical when I'm talking about breeding, when I'm looking at a dog that says, you are a dog that I want to pass on genetics from. And those are dogs that have to make the cut, on my team. And I just don't think it sounds good. I think people get maybe fall in love is the wrong word, but to an extent of hearing about certain dogs, and all of a sudden that dog's gone, right? Most of these dogs go to live better lives than I do. Herbie was a dog that I was in love with Herbie. He was a dog that he laid on the floor with my daughter when we brought her home from the hospital. Just an awesome dog. I loved him to death. Herbie took off on his private jet from the airport down the road and went home to, live on his enormous, estate and gets to hunt all over the world. And he's great, but he just didn't fit exactly what I'm looking for. Extremely hard for me to make those decisions, but it's something I have to do. So deeming whether a dog is special or not is a difficult thing. But again, how you go through that process and how you build these dogs up is a big deal. So I'll keep you posted on Solo now that I've kind of let the cat out of the bag. I feel like I have to keep you posted on Solo. And we may have to have that discussion someday that he just didn't quite hit the level I was hoping he was going to. But I think we're well on our way, and I think we're looking pretty good as of right now. So hope you all have a great rest of your week. Thank you for keeping in tune with me here, and I will talk with you all soon. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes, and a special thank you to DUK, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.